In this lesson, I'm going to demonstrate the Canvas widgets in Python GUI programming. So once we create our canvas, the number of things we can do. We can create any objects, we can place text, we can create buttons, and so on. So it depends upon our own scenario and our requirements. So in this lesson, for example, I'm going to create and show you various techniques as far as the GUI programming is concerned in Python. So for example, we'll create a couple of rectangles and then some text, and how to use motion in those text as well, just so that you get an idea of various additional functions in Python that are very powerful and easy to use as well. So let's go ahead, begin with our code. Start off with a comment. So this code will create a couple of rectangles and much more. Let me go ahead and save this file before we begin our code. So I'm going to call it rectangle.py. Alright, great. Next, I'm going to go ahead and start our tkinter. From tkinter import, and then set our canvas widths and height. So my canvas width is going to be, let's say 300, and canvas height equals, let's keep it at 200. Find our colors, and this is going to be any color, right? So you can basically pick and choose any color code. And what I mean by color code is, for example, if you were to navigate or Google any colors, such as the w3schools.com, you can go there and just take a look at various colors, and you can pick and choose the color that you want, and it shows you the color code, right? So each of these are basically color codes. So if I were to select red and I like this color, I can simply copy and paste this color. If I like some shades of green, for instance, or some variations of green, I can go on this site and simply select any one of these. Okay, so it's your own choice. I just wanted to show you where you can go and actually choose and pick and choose your own colors. Great, let's get back to our code. So here, for example, my color code will be something like the green shade 476042, and the next one maybe yellow. Okay, next I'm going to give my variable box an empty list to a for loop, and here I'm going to do the ratios, and I'm going to add to the box, okay, such as the height and width of the canvas, basically setting some ratios. So for ratio in, and my ratio will be 0.2, 0.35, and append to this box. And what do we need to append? Let's say the canvas height, or first let's do the width, equal ratio, and then I'm going to do the canvas height here equals ratio. Next, the width and height again, but I'm going to subtract 1 minus the ratio from both the width and the height. So here I'm going to say canvas width equals 1 minus ratio, and then canvas height, do the same thing, 1 minus our ratio. So make sure we have our parentheses in correct order. Let's check. Here's our first parentheses. The good thing about these editors is that, of course, they give you the little underline below these parentheses, so you can see that they match. So my next set of parentheses is this, and this goes with this. All right, looks correct so far. Next, I'm going to create the master TK, and then let's create a couple of rectangles. So put a quick comment here. Let's create a couple of rectangles. My variable in here, it's going to be canvas master, and the width equals 200, and the height equals 100. Use a method called pack. Let me scroll down a little bit so you can see. And next, we're going to create the dimensions of the actual rectangle for our canvas. So I'm going to go ahead and first create the create rectangle, and my dimensions of the rectangle, in other words the corners, right, or where I like the starting point of the rectangle. So it'll be, let's say, 50 on the screen, and then 20 and then 150. And as I create these, notice you can actually see the image on the screen where all these sides are, and I'm taking all these dimensions right from the image that we wish to create, and that's what our rectangle is going to look like. So if you have an image already, you can work with it and then create the code off of that image. And even if you do not have an image, you can still create. You just have to practice a few times before you end up creating various code for all of these images. And of course, they can get as complex as possible. So after 80, I'm going to do a fill, and this time, let's say I want to use the fill color, and I want to just go back to my site here and pick one of these colors. All right, I'm going to go ahead and just go with the standard red here, copy it, go back to our code, and of course paste it, right? So this is our color. And next, basically I'm going to repeat this, just make some minor changes, right? So just copy it, paste it, and this time I'm going to change the dimensions. So it's going to start at 65, and this is going to be, let's say, 35, and 135, and then 65. It's the other corner. So once a rectangle is created, next we get to our lines, right? So we need to create these lines that's going to link that rectangle. So for my lines, I need about 4 lines, right? So create line, and my line is going to be 0, 0, 50, and 20. And I'm going to fill these lines equals, I can use the same color code, well, not the entire code. Undo this, copy this, and paste it. Okay, so I can use any other color if I choose to, but I'm going to stick with the standard color that we're using. And I'm also going to define the width of these lines. So width is going to be 3. And I can copy, of course, to save time. I can copy it and paste it. I need about 4 lines, right? And this time I'm just going to change the dimensions or the locations of these lines. So this is going to be 0. The next one is going to be 100, 50, and then 80. And next I'm going to have 150. This is going to be 20, be 200, and then 0. And my last line will have 150. Then I'm going to have 80, 200, and then 100. Perfect. The rest of the fill and colors stay the same. So once we have a rectangle and the lines, we basically have a shape of a rectangle. Now there are a couple of ways we can do this. I can continue to build this code and move to the for loop and then actually create and then move forward, but I can also modify this. I'm going to show you both. In fact, I'm going to leave this code on the screen. I'm going to also write similar code. There's another way we can do this, so you get to see both ways. So just put comment here. Let me start off with the comment. So let's modify the top code. So here I'm going to start off with the variable called w equals canvas master, and then define my width and height. Width equals canvas underscore width, which is the same as the top, and then the height equals canvas underscore height, and then do a pack method again. All right, great. Once we've defined this, let me show you how else we can do the above rectangle. So we can do it in a for loop. So for I in range 2, I'm going to have it create the rectangle, right? So I'm going to use a method of create rectangle box, give it a list I, and then place 0. Then I'm going to give it another box, it's I, and then 1 as the next argument, and then I'm going to have the box again for 2, and then of course for the 3 as well. Okay, so just repeat this, 2, and then another box for 3. Use my fill color. So this time I'm going to fill the box with the colors that I've defined way on top. So I used fill colors, and then of course I can use the I, and then close my parentheses. So let me scroll down. All right, next I'm going to define the origin of the canvas. So let's go ahead and do w.create line and start with a 0, comma 0, and then get my box. My first box is 0, and then location is at 0. Next box would be 0 and 1, and these are simply the coordinates of the left upper corner of the box, right? So it starts from the left upper corner 0, starts at 0, 0, and then moves to 0, 1. Next, I'm going to give it a fill color. So fill colors would be 0, and the width equals, let's say, 5. Next, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do the create line, and this line is going to start with 0 and adjust to my canvas height. So this will be the lower left corner of the canvas, right? So it starts at 0 and then goes to the lower left of the canvas itself. And then use the box 0, 0, and then join to the box at 0 and 3. 0 and 3. And this again goes to the lower left corner of the box 0. Next, fill equals colors 0, and the width equals 5. So we're basically repeating this, but all we're doing is we're changing the coordinates. So we started off with the origin of the canvas, and then we worked with the lower left corner of the canvas, and next we're going to specify the right upper corner and the right upper corner of the canvas. So right upper corner of the box and right upper corner of the canvas itself. So I'm just going to copy this and paste it, and all we're going to do is just change the create line, and this time the right upper corner of the box 0 would be at box 0 and 2. So it'll be box 0 and then box 2, and this is going to join to box 0 and 1. Box 0 and then 1 again. So this is our right upper corner of the box 0. Next, I'm going to specify the canvas width, and our canvas width is 0, and of course our fill color, get rid of this, is 0, and our width is going to be, maybe I'll change this to a bigger, 8. Great. Next, I'm going to use w.create line, and this is going to be our box 0 and 2 this time, and box 0 and 3. So this will be our lower right corner of the box 0. And of course, specify the canvas width, canvas height. This sets the lower right corner of the canvas itself. And then our fill equals colors to 0. And I'm going to specify the width here to be 5. So equals 5. So next, let's give it some spaces here. Let's do a w create text, and I'm going to divide the canvas width and height by 2. This will bring the text that I'm going to place in the middle of the rectangle itself. So we do create text, and let's go ahead and type canvas width divided by 2, and canvas height also divided by 2, and then just write some text. So text equals close to start painting, or paint. And once we're done, we close our main loop. So far we've created the rectangle, and I've shown you a couple of ways you can do it, right? We can do the rectangle in the for loop, or we can create the rectangle manually by defining sides as well and using methods. Okay, so a couple of ways. So let's save this for now, and let me run this so you can see. Let's take a look. So let's go to line 12, box.append. Yeah, of course it's invalid syntax because I need to multiply instead of use equals. Okay, so I'm going to times the ratio, not equals the ratio. So just simply change all the equal signs to ratio or to the multiplication sign. All right, great. Save it, run it. Let's take a look. Let's move to line 38 and see what our syntax is for this. It needs another set of parentheses. Let's run it again. Let's see, a couple of other errors that we have is line 48, which is canvas width. All right, let's fix this. Get our brackets here. All right, let's take a look. So we have on line 48, our canvas width is 0. Let me scroll up and just verify the canvas width times ratio. And 1 minus, of course, is not the correct spelling. So save it. And once we have the syntax corrected, if I were to run this again, notice in this instance, you're going to see two rectangles, right? So let me move this aside. So you can see the red rectangle within another red rectangle. Obviously the color is the same because we chose the same colors. And then our rectangle below, which says close to paint, is yellow in color, and then of course the outer color is green. And we have our 4 lines. So this way you can create a rectangle on the specific canvas area. I can of course change these colors if I choose to. Let's say if I would not like all the reds for my rectangle, I need a different color. I can always go back to my color here, and let's say I like something like this color. Just select it, go back to our code, and for my rectangle, run it again. And this instance, notice the colors are different, and my lines color are red because that's the color code for red, and the width is 3. I can of course change these widths as well. So a couple of ways you can create the code for creating rectangles on the canvas. So in this lesson, I simply wanted to demonstrate how to use and create rectangles using a couple of methods, a couple of ways in Python. So practice, and let's move to our next lesson.